The house of cards that is Republican opposition to Obamacare is starting to fall apart. Here to talk about it is Lee Fang. He's a political reporter at The Nation. Lee, tell us about what you found out about so-called Republican opposition to Obamacare.
Well, thanks for having me, David. Republicans have been adamant since early 2010 when the bill passed in pledging their opposition to the Affordable Care Act. They've had something close to 40 repeal votes. They've, of course, attacked it in many ways, calling it socialist or big government takeover. But I've found a number of letters from a Freedom of Information Act request that show that Republicans in private have a different take on the law. These letters show Republican lawmakers requesting money from Obamacare. There's a lot of money in the bill for doctor training programs, community health centers, school-based health centers, public health initiatives, all of this type of money. Republicans are asking for it behind closed doors, saying that it improves lives, it saves lives, it decreases chronic diseases. It really cuts against the rhetoric they're using, at least in public.
Now, it would be one thing if, so to think back to the Joe Biden, Paul Ryan vice presidential debate. When Joe Biden attempted to call out Paul Ryan and say, hey, all that stimulus money you were against, you were asking me for the money, you wrote me letters asking for it. And Paul Ryan said, just because I oppose that type of spending in principle doesn't mean that if the money's available, I shouldn't be trying to get what I can for my constituents. Does that type of explanation work here, or is this different because they're actually making the claims, which are this is going to improve wellness, this is going, right? Does that type of argument stand up, or is it a bogus argument in this case?
Yeah, and that's the response that I've heard from other Republicans in this instance, saying that this is just like the stimulus. But it's a little bit different here, given the rhetoric that they're using. You know, the stimulus was big and complicated, and a lot of Republicans said that, you know, we actually wanted more infrastructure spending, less spending on green jobs, you know, something like that. They try to make it at least a little bit nuanced. But on health reform, Republicans, most of them have been pretty adamant in saying that this law will only make health outcomes worse, that it will hurt the healthcare system. So in this case, when you read letters from Republicans like John Cornyn, who are saying that, you know, this is going to make our constituents much healthier, it's hard to believe their claims in public that the law is so terrible.
You also talk about in your story on The Nation, which everybody should check out, how there are actually a couple of Republicans, like, for example, Jerry Moran from Kansas and also Bill Cassidy from Louisiana, who actually showed up and helped break ground at an Obamacare facility. Bill Cassidy did a ribbon cutting at a health reform funded health center in the district. This is just such obvious hypocrisy on their parts, but will this ever filter down to voters? Will this ever have any political repercussions for them?
Well, that's a good question. You know, in the last 2 years, a lot of these Republicans have been able to smear the law, but then go home and then take credit for its benefits. And the problem here is that, you know, I don't want to begrudge the local media because I know a lot of them don't have the resources to look into these things. But, you know, you get cameras to come around, pictures taken, and they get a lot of credit in the local media for doing good things, even though they're going back home or going back to D.C. and trying to vote to repeal them. So there's a hypocrisy that I think needs to be called out, because if these Republicans were successful, there would be no ribbon to cut, there would be no ground to break. Because that money wouldn't be there. I do see a little bit of a shift after we broke this story. Big South Dakota newspaper started calling out John Thune and Congresswoman Kristi Noem for doing this type of thing. But, you know, it's yet to be seen. At least for Bill Cassidy, he's running for Senate next year against Mary Landrieu. And, you know, there's a small chance that this might come up.
To shift gears a little bit, and we didn't really plan to talk about this, Lee, but I was reading some of your tweets over the weekend about the Edward Snowden situation. I'm curious just kind of overall where your thoughts are with the story. You know, you had an interesting tweet which talked about how, you know, amidst discussions of how someone with a GED makes 200 grand a year, were lost, some really more important topics, like, for example, the amount of control that these contractors have over the government data. Where are you at now? Give us a little bit of a sense of, in the last couple of days, any thoughts you've had about the Edward Snowden NSA leaks.
Well, we first saw BuzzFeed, but now David Brooks and so many others in the media trying to belittle this story, trying to make the story not about the big revelations about mass spying, but instead about the personal biography of this whistleblower who, and the story about this idea that he only had a GED and couldn't accomplish all this is ridiculous. If you know anyone in IT, I know several people who are, brilliant tech wizards who never finished high school. In any case, the story here is multifaceted. For one, we're learning more and more about the government's spying efforts, and two, we're learning about the hundreds of private contractors that help the NSA and other intelligence agencies administer these spying programs. And I think it could lead to a lot of secondary consequences or unintended consequences, as a lot of these weapons or these cyber tools or these snooping tools are in private hands and could be abused.
All right, we've been speaking with Lee Fang, political reporter for The Nation. Check out his article about Obamacare and follow him on Twitter. I do. Is it LH Fang?
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
LH Fang on Twitter. Lee, thanks as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Great talking to you, David. Appreciate it.